Welcome to the Book Boyfriend podcast, where we dish on everything from the alpha male to the sensitive soul. If you found yourself lusting after a fictional character, you've come to the right place. Here's your hosts, Faith Andrews, Elizabeth Grace, Livia Jamerland, and B.A. Wolf.
Hey everyone, B.A. Wolf here with Book Boyfriend Podcast. This is our March Madness, so we're all kind of riding solo here, so I hope you enjoy. I am going to introduce you to a lovely man named Tyler West from Boy Toy Chronicles by McLean. One of the best books I've read in a long time, so I'm super happy to bring you this podcast about him so you can get to know more about him. If you haven't read this book, go out and get it. And then come back and watch this so you can hear all of the fun spoilers, because I don't want to ruin anything for you, but I can't wait to dive in. So go get it and then come back. If you've already read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You love Tyler just as much as I do. So let's dive right in. Let's not waste any more time. Let me read you the blurb for the back of the book, which also kind of gives a little bit of insight into what's going on in the BTC. Warning, this is probably one of my favorite parts. Warning, this book contains mildly inappropriate everything. And boy did it, but it was fabulous. She did a great job. So I came up with a plan. I sat the brothers down and gave them my speech. We'd become male escorts. The house was split. The single dudes thought it was great. The guys with steady girlfriends told the single dudes they were insane. I promised them all we could make it work without hurting anybody. But we had to be smart about it. We had to keep it off campus, we had to keep it a secret, and in order to do so, we had to target those who wanted it kept a secret as much as we did. Our target, filthy rich, unsatisfied, horny housewives. Keep it high class, so to speak. And thus began BTC, or Boy Toy Corporation. Crazy, right? Crazy genius, Tyler West. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an introduction. Right there, that synopsis kind of hook, line, and sinkered me. If you haven't seen the cover, that as well got me. Oh, the cover is delicious. So you kind of got a little idea of what the BTC is. Basically, the founder of their frat house had died. They needed a way to come up with money. They got shit-faced one night, and basically that's the idea they came up with. The best part about it, though, was the rules. And I have to read you the rules of the BTC because they were probably one of the most entertaining rules I've ever read. There aren't a lot of them. In fact, we stick to 5 major rules. Number 1, don't be an asshole. Number 2, BTC is Vegas. What happens in BTC stays in BTC. 3, no judging anyone for their intended or for their choices to come and go, pun intended. 4, no dibs on clients. 5, if any one of the above doesn't suit you, see rule number 1, asshole. So basically, those are what their rules entail. You keep it a secret, no one gets hurt, you can still have your girlfriend, and nobody knows outside of the frat house. So we meet Tyler West. The prologue hooks you in right away, and then you get more into who Tyler West is. And let me just tell you, this was delicious. Prez, that's me, also known as Tyler West. 6 foot 2 inches, brown hair, green eyes, athletic build, and passionate about making women happy. Or at least that's what my profile says. This boy was so delicious. He had me on cloud 9 from 5% into the book. 5%! I've never been so into a book that early on. And yes, this is a novella, so it's kind of a shorter book, but that by no means it lessens the book. You get just as much of a punch packed into this novella as you would a full novel. So the moment I fell in love with Tyler, 5%, I'm telling you, I was floating in Tyler Westland. By 10%, I'm downright in love with this boy. And it's the most unconventional way to fall in love with a book boyfriend, but here it goes. Most of his clients, as you know, they're kind of older housewives. So he does something really unexpected, something that you wouldn't expect a frat boy to do, let alone one who is being a male escort. He has a special client who normally does request him. He doesn't dibs her, but she requests him. Her name is Miss Fletcher, or as we learned to call her, Babsy. No pun intended there. Babs loves the Babsies. So she's one of his usuals. She's mid-40s. She's a widow. What their time is spent doing is snuggling. She misses having someone in her bed to snuggle with because her husband's gone. So this is the moment that you just totally fall in love with Tyler West. And let me find you this quote because it's fabulous. You're going to love it. It says, "Time's up," Miss Fletcher sniffles as she starts to pull away. I hold her close. "I got time," I tell her. "Off the clock, promise." This makes her cry harder. "You're a good boy, Tyler." "Thanks, ma'am. I try." He knows that she wants this moment with him so badly, and so as she's crying, he can't help but let her have a little bit more time. He knows that this means more to her than the normal escort having sex and all of the above. So loved that. We also get introduced to a plethora of frat boys that I want you to meet because I'm not going to go into grave detail on them. I don't want to spoil that much. But we do get to meet Allie. She is Tyler West's girlfriend, or not girlfriend, but childhood friend. Childhood friend. So we meet Allie. She's quirky, she's smart, she's funny, but she is so badly broken. And the more you read, the more you find out about little Miss Allie. And she's a super likable heroine. She's not afraid to talk to Tyler as if they've been childhood friends forever. She knows that he's just a boy, but deep down they both like each other. The first scene, in fact, with Allie, we see her calling Tyler up, asking him if he can Skype because she needs to make sure her tits look good in the shirt. So you grow to love her. You think she's fun. She's one of the guys. The boys at the frat house love her. She's wonderful. I absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed the way Jay wrote Allie out. I'm gonna kind of go through some of our normal podcast moments. So I'm gonna go ahead and do most swoon-worthy moment. So one of my most swoon-worthy moments was when Tyler finally goes to tell Allie that he loves her. This is pretty close to the end of the book. You're gonna get a lot of moments in between the book. We'll talk about those in a little bit. So he bursts into her brother's birthday dinner, and he's not invited. They've kind of had a fallout fight at this point, and so he's bursting in, and he goes up on stage. Mind you, he's got the frat boys in tow, his parents in tow. He's got everybody there. He's got all of Allie's family there, and he jumps up on the stage. The restaurant's in uproar because he's not supposed to be there. They're like, "What are you doing?" And one of his frat brothers is like, "Go, I'm recording, do this." And so he goes for it, and he goes through pages and pages of swoon-worthy moments. Like, if I could read you the entire plus his speech, I would. That would probably take too long, and I don't want to have to go through that with you. I'm going to give you the bangerang, the moment that I was just like, "Go, Tyler." That moment was when he says, "I say all this because I need you to know, Allie. I loved you from the first moment I saw you. I loved you through all 6 seasons of Dawson's Creek. I loved you through all the years of you being mad at me when all I tried to do was show you that I loved you. I loved you through every girl I've ever dated, and I loved you more than any asshole you've ever dated. I love you now, not just because you're my everything at the moment, but because you'll always be my everything." And that was my most swoon-worthy moment. Then Allie kind of gets her own revenge. At this point, she's not talking to Tyler about this. She's kind of sees him leave the restaurant. She's upset because he didn't say anything sooner. So they end up having one of the frat brothers has to get a testicle removed. He's now dubbed the Uniballer as one of the funny moments in this book. There are a plethora of them. But Uniballer gets a party, a welcome home party, and so they decide to do kind of a comedy roast on him. Well, it ends up being Tyler that gets the roast, and Allie gets her 2 cents in. So what I loved most about that is Allie you don't expect Allie to be the girl that ends up showing, she's really upset at this point. So you really don't know how this is going to end. I'm going to give you this portion of it, but I'm not going to tell you how it ends. She comes out and says, this speech, and it just, it gets you really good. I'm sorry that I just told everyone the secrets you shared with only me. I did it because I wanted everyone to understand that even though I know all of those stories and more, I'm still that 10-year-old girl quietly sitting next to the cutest boy I'd ever seen. And I'm still that 12-year-old girl that tried so hard to get you to notice me that I wore a poison ivy costume for Halloween 3 years in a row. And I'm still that girl that said no to everyone that asked me to senior prom because I so wanted to be the girl that made your jaw drop when you picked me up. And it did. I swear it, Tyler. Your jaw dropped when you saw me. And I told you I loved you that night, and you said the same. But we lied to each other and pretended it was said as friends. And we've lied to each other every day since. She inhales deeply. And I'm done lying, Ty. So basically, she's there confessing her love. I'm not going to tell you what Tyler says to that. But those are just kind of those swoon-worthy moments that you'll never forget from either of those. Again, like I said, Allie, she's super likable. Tyler's lovable. You'll absolutely adore that man. So there was also, and I wish I wrote that moment for me. It is when Allie is trying to confess her love to Tyler at a frat party beforehand, and she says, because I'd rather have a little of you than nothing at all. When I read that statement, I sighed. You had one of those audible sighs, and then I immediately highlighted it. I was like, this was one of those moments that it's so poetic, so simple, yet it just means the world. Loved that. My casting for Tyler West is none other, I'm pulling up a picture so you guys see him. It's none other than Michael Trevino, which is Tyler from Vampire Diaries. And this is my Tyler. Love him. He fits the bill to me. Like, that's exactly who I would have pictured. He's adorable in all things. What I'm going to leave you with, though, is 3 things that I'm sure we all remember from Boy Toy Chronicles, and if you haven't read it, you're going to laugh. Batman. Batman is huge in this book, and if anybody knows me or my books, they know how much I love Batman as well. So when I read this, I squeed, and then I devoured it. The playroom. Miss Fletcher is not exactly who we think she is in this book. Miss Fletcher has her very own playroom, but it is not what you think. It's a very different playroom, and that's why I'm going to leave you with the word cats. Her playroom involves cats, and then as well as a cat suit. So if you haven't read, I do encourage you to pick up Boy Toy Chronicles. It's one of the best reads I've read in a long time, and have yourself a heyday laughing. You're not going to want to put this down. You'll probably read it in one sitting just like I did. So with that, I say goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed this little podcast. I know I was riding solo, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Boy Toy Chronicles. See you later!
Thanks for joining us. You can find out who will be on upcoming shows and what books we'll be discussing, as well as more about our hosts at www.bookboyfriendpodcast.com. See you next time when we add another boyfriend to the ranks.